Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from this month's sponsor, Ethico.
If you're a compliance officer, middle managers are crucial in getting your programs from you to your frontline employees. But how do we activate those managers and get them on our side? Ethico's new Middle Manager Toolkit equips you with the skills needed to empower your managers, to promote a culture where ethical behavior thrives and employees feel empowered to speak up. Learn how to turn frontline managers into ethical leaders with our new white paper, Empowering Middle Managers as Ethics Champions. And did I mention you can get the whole toolkit for free? Head to ethico.com to download the full toolkit today.
If you're wondering about what you can do if you find yourself in an FCPA compliance action, check out the FCPA Survival Guide. It's my latest book. It's sponsored by Ethico, and in it, I take up and write the top 10 things you can do to reduce your overall fine and penalty if you find yourself in an FCPA enforcement action. So check out the FCPA Survival Guide. The Daily Compliance News for January 9, 2025, the Tribute to Jimmy Carter edition. We begin with this story. Our lead story is a letter to the Financial Times from Frank Vogel, adjunct professor at Georgetown University and the co-founder of Transparency International and the Partnership for Transparency Fund, who credits Jimmy Carter for his vital contribution to the fight against the international scourge of bribery and corruption. It was during his presidency that the FCPA was signed into law. So you may not have remembered Jimmy Carter, you may not have remembered him fondly, but he's the one that enacted the FCPA. Next up from the New York Times, MoviePass, the unlimited movie pass company, the former CEO pled guilty to fraud because he misled investors on the unlimited MoviePass subscription plan. He pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit securities fraud for another one of his companies as well. He faces 20 years in prison. If you're going to offer unlimited anything, it better be unlimited. Next up from the National Review, at long last, the Office of Inspector General has issued its compliance guidance for nursing facilities. It outlines risks for nursing facilities, identifies recommendations and practical considerations for mitigating those risks, and offers other important information for nursing facilities to consider around their compliance programs. So if you're a compliance professional, it could be a very good source of information for you. Our final story comes to us from Bloomberg, which reports that the Chinese government has pledged to deepen its anti-corruption drive across a broad sweep of industries, including finance and energy, a sign that the Chinese president's campaign against dirty officials will roll on for the foreseeable future. The nation's graft watchdog has singled out finance, energy, tobacco, pharmaceutical, sports engineering, and construction sectors as well. So if you're doing business in China, you need to be very, very, very careful, because wherever you want to be, I assure you, in a Chinese jail is not one of the places in case the Chinese government ever comes knocking on the door and ask about corruption. So it could be a pickup in cases against Western companies, as we have seen previously, such as GSK. At the start of this podcast, the sponsor for the entire Compliance Podcast Network is Ethico. Well, Ethico has a great new offering this month for you, a toolkit for middle managers. This is something that you, as the compliance professional, can use to move your compliance program forward by giving middle managers the skills necessary to answer a call for speak up, or when someone comes in their office and raises a concern. I can't think of a tool that will be more valuable for you in the current era of enforcement. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.